The process of integration. Globalization is a fact because of technology, because of an integrated global supply chain, because of changes in transportation. And we are not going to be able to build a wall around that. Barack Obama, 44th President of the United States. Good morning, this is Shine Matthew. The Making of a Global World, Part 5. Topics of the day. Number 1, the world financial institutions, the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. Number 2, fixed exchange rate system and a floating exchange rate system. Number 3, the Group of 77. Number 4, the new international economic order. And number 5, globalization. If you recall your World War history, the World War that lasted from 1939 to 1945, the deadliest conflict in human history, marked by 70 to 85 million fatalities. The United States and the Soviet Union were allies during the war. Together, these nations and others brought about the downfall of Hitler and the Nazi Germany. President Harry S. Truman warned by some of his advisors that any attempt to invade Japan would result in horrific American casualties, ordered that the new weapon be used to bring the war to a speedy end. When the war ended in 1945, the United States and the Soviet Union emerged as world superpowers. The interwar economy taught two major lessons. Number 1, the mass production requires mass consumption. And number 2, the development of a country depends on the country's link with the external world. Economic link with the outside world. Mass consumption requires high and stable income. For high and stable income, it is necessary to have stable employment, trade, commerce, markets, government involvement in controlling fluctuations, output, employment. That's what makes the stability. And number 2, the country's link with the external world or outsider. Full employment is made sure by controlling flows of goods, capital, and labor. The countries after the Second World War decided to have two final aims: economic stability and full employment. They made an agreement at the United Nations Monetary and Financial Conference in 1944, held at Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, United States. Established two institutions named the International Monetary Fund and the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, World Bank. The IMF deals with the surpluses and deficits. The IBRD, World Bank, finance post-war reconstruction. These institutions, together known as Bretton Woods institutions or Bretton Woods twins. The post-war system is known as the Bretton Woods system. Controlled the financial operations since 1947. But these institutions have been controlled by the industrial powers. The United States of America leads with veto power, a special power. The International Monetary Fund. The International Monetary Fund is an international organization headquartered in Washington, D.C., consisting of 189 countries, working to foster global monetary cooperation, secure financial stability, facilitate international trade, promote high employment and sustainable economic growth, and reduce poverty around the world. Formed in 1944 at the Bretton Woods Conference, primarily by the ideas of Harry Dexter White and John Maynard Keynes, It came into formal existence in 1945 with 29 member countries and the goal of restructuring the international payment system. It now plays a central role in the management of balance payments difficulties, and international financial crisis. Countries contribute funds to a pool through a quota system from which countries experiencing balance of payments problems can borrow money. In short, abbreviation IMF, formation 27 December 1945. Type International Financial Institution. Headquarters Washington DC, United States. DC expanded, District of Columbia. Region worldwide. Membership 189. Official language English. Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva. Chief Economist Gita Gopinath, Indian origin American. Main organ Board of Governors. Parent organization United Nations. World Bank. The World Bank is an international financial institution that provides loans and grants to the governments of poorer countries for the purpose of pursuing capital projects. It comprises two institutions, the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, IBRD, and the International Development Association, IDA. The World Bank is a component of the World Bank Group. Its motto is working for a world free of poverty. Formation, July 1944. Type, Monetary International Financial Organization. Headquarters, Washington DC, United States. Membership, 189 countries are members of the IBRD. 173 countries are members of the IDA. Parent organization, World Bank Group. President, David Malpass. Managing Director and Chief Financial Officer, Anshula Kant. She's also an Indian. The early post-war years faced the growth of trade and incomes, especially for Western industrial nations. The growth rate is about 8%. The period 1950 to 70, incomes increased to 5%, stable growth. Unemployment rate is less than 5%. Spread of technology and industrialization. Developing countries invited foreign direct investment, capital investment. Started to import industrial plants and modern technological equipment. But the international monetary system of the period is based on fixed exchange rate system. That is what is the Bretton Woods system. Fixed exchange rate system means, sometimes it is called a pegged exchange rate system, is a type of exchange rate regime in which currency's value is fixed or pegged by a monetary authority against the value of another currency or a basket of other currencies or another measure of value such as gold. So the currencies of nations pegged with the US dollar. Dollar itself is pegged with gold. $35 per ounce gold. Decolonization and independence. The decolonization process got rapid pace after 1950s, after the Second World War, especially in Asia and Africa. But these nations had a lot of problems: poverty, lack of resources. Nations carried captive by colonial rule. The International Monetary Fund and World Bank, mainly for industrialized nations, Europe and Japan rebuilt their economies with a rapid pace. 1950s onwards, these institutions turned their attention towards developing countries. Problems of independent nations, mainly poverty, they required to have guidelines from international agencies, especially for controlling land and minerals. After the independence, most of these countries' resources were controlled by the colonial powers. Exploitation of natural resources by the MNCs, multinational corporations of the United States of America and industrialized countries. That what resulted in the formation of another organization by these developing countries in Asia and Africa, named Group of 77. The Group of 77 at the United Nations is a coalition of 135 developing countries designed to promote its members' collective economic interest and create an enhanced joint negotiating capacity in the United Nations. There were 77 founding members of the organization. Since China participates in the Group of 77 but does not consider itself to be a member, all official statements are issued in the name of the Group of 77 and China. Abbreviation is G77, named after number of founding member states. Formation 15 June 1964. Founded at Geneva, Switzerland. Type International Intergovernmental Voting Bloc. Headquarters, United Nations Headquarters, New York, United States. Methods: collective bargaining, lobbying, reports and studies. Fields: international politics. Membership 135 in 2019. It's a share of the group. The Cooperative Republic of Guyana. Affiliations: United Nations. This group of 77 demanded for having a new international economic order. New international economic order, that is what is in short called NEO. The new international economic order was a set of proposals put forward during the 1970s by some developing countries through the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development to promote their interest by improving the terms of trade, increasing development assistance, developed to country tariff reductions and other means. It was meant to be a revision of the international economic system in favor of third world countries, replacing the Bretton Woods system, which had specified the leading states that had created it, especially the United States. This order was demanded by the non-aligned movement. The special features based on text. NEO means control over natural resources, development assistance, fairer prices for raw materials, better access for markets. The end of the Bretton Woods and the beginning of globalization. So we have already seen that. Bretton Woods institution is based on fixed exchange rate system. Now it is replaced by floating exchange rate system. Floating exchange rate system is a type of exchange rate regime in which a currency's value is allowed to fluctuate in response to foreign exchange market events. So 1950s and 60s witnessed stable and rapid growth, especially in the Western countries and the United States. 1960s, the rising cost of overseas involvement, US lost its strength. USD lost principal currency status. Collapse of fixed exchange rate system. Replacement of fixed exchange rate system by floating exchange rate system. So 1970s onwards, international financial system changed from loans and development assistance to borrow from commercial banks and private agencies. Periodic debt crisis, lower incomes, poverty, especially in countries in Africa and Latin America. And 1970s witnessed unemployment. In 1990s, it reached its highest point, the peak point. Shifting of MNCs to low-wage Asian countries. In 1949, China witnessed a revolution, the Communist Revolution. For a short span of time, China followed the policy of isolationism. In 1990s onwards, new economic policies in China. 1990s the same period witnessed the collapse of the USSR and the Soviet style of communism in Eastern Europe. The economic reforms in China reduced the wages, very low wages in China. So that's what made China an attractive destination for the MNCs. Now the market is full of Chinese televisions, phones, toys. That is because of the low-cost structure of the Chinese economy. The relocation of industries, trade and capital flows right across the world. The economic geography is getting changed. It changed to India, China, and Brazil. A rapid economic transformation. That is what is termed as globalization. So globalization is a term became popular in social science in the 1990s. It derives from the word globalize, which refers to the emergence of an international network of economic systems. Theodore Levitt is credited with popularizing the term and bringing it into the mainstream business audience in the later half of the 1980s. Since its inception, the concept of globalization has inspired competing definitions and interpretations. Due to the complexity of the concept, various research projects, articles, and discussions often stay focused on a single aspect of globalization. The International Monetary Fund identified 4 basic aspects of globalization: trade and transactions, capital and investment movements, migration and movement of people, and the dissemination of knowledge. Further, environmental challenges such as global warming, cross-boundary water, air pollution, and overfishing of the ocean are linked with globalization. Globalizing processes are affected by business and work organization, economics, socio-cultural resources, and the natural environment. Academic literature commonly subdivides globalization into 3 major areas: economic globalization, cultural globalization, and political globalization. That is the end of the lesson. Sources: Internet, Wikipedia, and the NCERT textbook. Thank you.